you talk with us about how you came to the decision to help co-found the Win Without War Coalition?
To stop the war, number one, to stop the invasion of Iraq, we saw this impending disaster and all that it was going to mean for so many organizations. And we thought it important that groups, not just who were involved in issues of war and peace, but the broad community of organizations that had so much at stake, maybe not focused on war and peace particularly, but they're working on civil rights, on women's rights, on the environment, on neighborhood activism, on a wide range of issues that will all be impacted by the war. And the idea was if we could bring ourselves together collectively from all of those vantage points, we'll have the best possible capacity to create the conditions that would make it difficult or impossible to carry out the invasion politically, putting pressure on Congress, and once in, to work to educate the American public, to mobilize our support, and then to put maximum pressure on Congress and ultimately candidates to end this war.
What the Win Without War Coalition has also done, though, is it's almost counterintuitive. You've reached out to distinguished military, you've reached out to faith community, you are talking in public forums, and so you, in many ways, really have your finger on the pulse of what's happening at all sections of America.
Well, we're based in Washington, D.C., so some would say that would automatically disqualify us from knowing what's going on in America. But our network keeps us grounded around the country. And you're right, we have some very distinguished, extraordinarily eloquent and powerful and highly credentialed retired military generals, 3, 4 stars, who are traveling with us in media markets around the country, who are serving congressional districts and states that are very, very much in play. Not that we're going to be endorsing any candidates, but we want to inform and engage the public as they make this major decision as to who's going to be the next president, who's going to be serving in Congress, what the stakes are for the United States in terms of national security in this election. And these generals are visiting editorial boards, appearing on public affairs programs, conducting national security town hall meetings in these media markets. And they're saying, look, the United States national security has been severely compromised by the war in Iraq and the overall Bush doctrine and what he's done to this country. Our Army and our Marines in particular are at the breaking point. Those who would do us harm have never been stronger. This, according to the National Intelligence Estimate, this war in Iraq has been the single most powerful recruitment tool for Al-Qaeda. So they deliver that message. They're so credible, and they say, please consider these facts when you make your decision for who's going to be serving in the White House and in the Congress.
There have been few organizations and even fewer voices who were at this kind of conclusion, this point where you are now. Although we recognize from recent polling that some 84% of the American people agree with you. Has this made your efforts, the mission of Win Without War, any easier?
It's made it, obviously it's good when you have a receptive audience and when that audience is broader, but it's made it that much more of a challenge, and it's also made it frustrating, quite frankly, because you have a Congress that, despite the fact that their constituents overwhelmingly want this war to end, have continued to fund this war, including the Democratic Party. If the Democratic members of Congress were unified in their opposition to the war would end. Simple as that. The Congress is the power of the purse. So what we need to do is we need to change not only who's in the White House and who's in the Congress, but make certain that they're committed to doing the right thing once they get into public office. So one of the things that we're doing in that regard is we're working with the superdelegates and delegates to the Democratic National Convention to push for the strongest possible platform plank on the war in Iraq, on the need for engaged in a diplomatic surge, including Iran without preconditions, and to stop torture, and to make this a focal point of the party, to make it clearly and firmly part of their platform, and then follow through after the election to make sure that those elected on that platform follow through, and then we end the war. Also on the Republican side, we're working with people like Ron Paul and other anti-war Republicans, working with them to see if they might have the right to speak their mind at the Republican National Convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's, of course, doing another counter rally, if you will, outside of the convention. We want those Republicans. And finally, for those that are they're not affiliated with either Democrats or Republicans, but are the persuadables out there. Those are the people who are going to go to the polls and determine who the next Congress is going to be and who the next president is going to be. We need to talk to those people to make it very clear that not only as a matter of values, but also as a matter of our basic national security. We have to have fundamental change. It's not enough even to end the war. We have to change fundamentally the foundation on which this war was made possible, namely the Bush Doctrine, unilateralism, militarism. We have to reject that wholesale and make sure we never get into this kind of catastrophe again.